what happens otherwise is we have the marijuana party running federally, which has no chance of getting elected, but is the conscience vote for all those people who feel they're not going to get represented.
Yes.
But we're quite happy to tell everyone, since I myself have run 9 times and would normally be organizing a lot of candidates here in British Columbia, we'd be more than happy, like we're not planning to run against Libby Davis, and we'd be more than happy to endorse all the NDP candidates if this was the kind of aggressive policy they were pursuing. So I think when people check out your website, we're a lot of activists who are anxious to get involved, anxious to put our energy, and I guess what we're looking for is what kind of energy can the NDP put towards this issue in the upcoming federal election. But another thing to do as well is to contrast you with the alternatives. We're going to see a new Conservative Party person as the leader of that party, and Paul Martin seems to be competing for much of the same turf. Do you see the next election as an opportunity for the NDP in that regard, and that there's probably one social democratic party in the election and 2 substantially right-wing parties? How do you view the current alignment of Canadian politics?
Well, it will, I think, open up real possibilities, and in fact, not just possibilities, necessities for people if they want to push back against the sort of corporate drift, the very right-wing point of view that we see from the emerging new alliance of the Conservatives and the Alliance Party on the one hand, and then Paul Martin as the head of the Liberals. He's really a very conservative leader for that party, and has been very soft on the whole question of the marijuana laws, even the rather inadequate legislation that's proposed.
We think of him as hostile. We don't think of him as soft. We detect an undercurrent of hostility to any liberalization of the marijuana laws.
I think you're probably right on there. In terms of the policy on our website, I became leader about 9 months ago, and we're going through a complete update of our policies for the next election, which will be completed very soon. And so we're going to have our website infused with our new policy positions probably within 2 months from now, 2 to 3 months from now, and well in advance of the next election. So what you'll see on the website, quite frankly, is still a little bit out of date, so I wouldn't want people I don't think you'll see the clarity and forcefulness that you're looking for at this stage on the site.
I want to point out, though, that Mr. Layton has very explicit statements on record, which we're also going to put on the homepage, outlining that it's not just for Pot TV that he's indicated his stand for legalization of marijuana, but in some any media context. We've got lots of quotes from you talking about how you believe marijuana should be
and you know,
legalized.
it was interesting. I know you were following our leadership contest, and all of our candidates running for
That's
leader
right. In
took
fact,
the
that's
position
the,
that
article
it should be legalized, and I think that shows that really right throughout our party we're at that stage. I often thought that once those of us who grew up who were growing up at a time when pot was readily available and frequently used, reached the point where we were actually the senior decision makers, that you would then finally reach that tipping point and laws would begin to change. And when we see what's going on, for example, Larry Campbell, the mayor of Vancouver, who has come out very clearly to say that the law has to go further in legalization. Yeah. You've got to take away, as long as you've got the sale and production of marijuana in the criminal code, then what you're going to have is the likelihood, the tendency for there to be real tension and inappropriate activity associated with it. The moment that you create a legalized environment, then everything becomes somewhat more regularized. I liken it very much to the old prohibition laws and what happened in those days, and it's time to get out from under it. My visits to Amsterdam and other cities where there's a more flexible attitude prove to me that this is absolutely the way to go.
Well, we're loving this here on Pot TV, but you know, one of the things we've detected too is a pervasive American influence in Canadian government policy currently. We often point to the fact that the police cars here have American flags on them, that the local Vancouver police often invite the U.S. Consul General to come down to their police department to comment on judicial matters regarding drug laws whenever they're liberalized. We saw that MPs McTeague and Chamberlain were down at the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa conspiring with the government there to actually thwart their own party and their own government. And now we have the committee the U.S. being invited to attend the Drugs Committee, looking at the new marijuana reform, so to speak. And we detect that Paul Martin is greatly influenced by the American.
Well, I think we're looking at a kind of continental drift right now, where and it's kind of deep integration of Canadian society with the U.S. economy and the U.S. government that is a real concern. Paul Martin's first reaction after we, and I'm very proud of this, as a nation said we're not going to war in Iraq, Paul Martin's reaction was, well, now we've offended the Americans, we better get into Star Wars with them. This, I think, was a completely unsatisfactory response. And our view is that Canadians have a different value system. We're actually kind of proud of it. We like the fact that we have a peace tower in our parliament buildings. We like the notion that the Canadian flag is what flies up there, not the stars and stripes. And we have a Medicare system. We have laws that are different. We're a little bit more tolerant. We have more diversity. We celebrate that diversity in different ways. And we've moved ahead on same-sex marriages, for example. So I think we want to keep Canada as an independent, sovereign nation. And adopting more modernized laws around marijuana than the U.S. would have, I think would help to underline that. And I do also want to say, there's a lot of folks in the States who are cheering us on.
Oh, that's
because there are millions of Americans who favor the direction that Canada is going. Can I just pick Michael Moore as an example? As someone who's bowling for Columbine and other films, have often pointed to Canada as a place where things are done a bit differently. The values are differently constructed. They have to do with community. They have to do with a more social perspective, a less absolute, abstract, robust individualism, where it's dog eat dog. And I think that kind of more mellow attitude, if I may say so, seems to fit rather nicely with the modernization of marijuana laws.
Did you see Michael Moore? He was in the city yesterday along with you.
I didn't get a chance to see him, but you know, I've used his films since way before anybody had ever heard of him in my university courses where I've been teaching at U of T in sociology and other subjects. And Roger and Me, if people haven't seen that was his original kind of a breakthrough film about General Motors and how they were closing down all the auto plants in Flint, Michigan. And he was trying to meet with Roger, who was the CEO of General Motors, and it's hysterical.
Yeah,
and
it is a funny movie.
Quite a commentary on American society.
And now he's produced by Canadians, too, as he said at his Academy Award acceptance. He says, I don't have to answer to Hollywood, I'm financed by Canadians. So, and of course, he makes all Canadians feel great when you see Bowling for Columbine. It's like a Valentine's Day card to Canadians. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to talk about, particularly the synergy in perhaps our audience getting involved with your campaign to become the Prime Minister, the leader of the New Democratic Party? You'll need to be elected in Don Mills in Toronto.
Toronto Danforth. This would be, any of the viewers out there in the Riverdale area or East York, it would be great to have you join the party and prepare us to move forward with a victory there. ndp.ca is our website. It's easy to get to, and you can receive our newsletter there. You can sign up and join the party. You can support us financially because, of course, we don't have the big corporate sector financing that other parties have, and we certainly would welcome.
Money is the lubricant of liberty.
Yes, it can indeed be. And our ideas are there. You can meet our members of Parliament. You can get to know. We have a wonderful youth section of our party that's very strong on the issue of modernization of our marijuana laws, and they're very active. We have a youth organizer who works with them across the country on the campuses, in the youth groups, in the workplaces, etc. And you can be a part of it. Anyone watching this show can not only help to support us, but when you become a member of our party, you actually have an influence on the policies we adopt, because we are a democratic party. And in that sense, your voices would be not only welcome, but they'd be able to have some influence.
There's a federal election next April or May. It's expected there'll be severe competition in this upcoming election. It's very pivotal for the cannabis community, and I'd urge you to write Mr. Layton and write the NDP and find out what Libby Davis has been doing. She's been doing a marvelous job on the committee investigating the marijuana reform bill, and she's been incredibly helpful to our community, and I wish you all the best of luck, Mr. Layton.
Appreciate it.
Hope we can hear lots about you and the marijuana issue in the months ahead.
Righto, you will.